Thank you very much for being part of this webinar. You're welcome to the Financing a Sustainable Food System webinar, and we are very pleased that you are able to join us today for this fantastic webinar as we recognize the World Soil Day and also in the International Day of Banking. Now, as we kick off now, we looking at the agenda. The first presentation is by the CEO of IntelliDigest, Dr. Ifeyinwa Kanu. I am pleased to be able to present to you this keynote speech today, looking at the state of financing in the food system and what we can do to establish innovative financing solutions to ensure that we can deliver a sustainable food system. And to start off that conversation, I think it's really important to look at the fact that the World Bank reported on food finance architecture, financing a healthy, equitable, and sustainable food system. And in that report, they highlighted that a 12 trillion hidden socio-economic and environmental cost exists within the food system at the moment. And they also recommended that to address this cost, the report did highlight there's an urgent call to implement food finance imperatives with the potential to unlocking 4.5 trillion in new business opportunities every year. Now, it's quite interesting that this report came out in 2021, and almost 2 years after, in November 2023, the FAO reported on the state of food and agriculture 2023, and they also highlighted there's an estimated 12.7 trillion in hidden $12.7 trillion US dollars in hidden socio-economic and environmental cost. This is a further decline from the World Bank 2021 report, which simply means that, it seems as if we've not really done enough within the time frame, considering the urgency and the need with which the World Bank did present the report, and also the recommendation with regards to ensuring that we unlock this potential within the food system. Now, the estimate looked at about $10 trillion, but, having a more liberal approach will give you about $12.7 trillion as a hidden cost in terms of social, economic, and environmental cost of the food system. Now, also based on the Institute for Food Policy Research, they've also highlighted that currently we spend over $20 billion on current total climate finance investment per year. But if we need to address the challenge we have within the food system, we'll be looking to spend over 300 to 350 billion US dollars to transform the food system. So if you're looking at how massive, how challenging the climate change issue is, if you then look at the food system as one aspect of the overall climate change issue, what they're saying is that we need about 15 times the funding currently used for the overall climate change issue to tackle one aspect of this climate change issue, which is the food system. Now, why is this really important? Because a lot of the presentation and discussion around funding the food system is usually focused on climate change, climate impact, but we do have a lot more challenging issues within the food system that need to be tackled, because our food system is a bit broken. If we look at the global state of the food system, we know that 1 in 5 deaths is currently linked to malnutrition, which means that what we eat really defines who we are. And this is why we talk about the importance of food as medicine. So we need to understand that aside climate change issue, there are more pressing needs why we should really help to make sure this food system works for us. Also within the food system, over 900 million people are hungry. Over 1.9 billion people are obese, which means that we spend a lot of fund in helping to make people feel better when they're already having deficiencies, malnutritional issues. And putting it in perspective, the UK government spent over £18 billion on obesity-related issues. We shouldn't be doing this. If we can invest a lot of that money more proactively in enabling the establishment of a more sustainable food system where a lot more people have access to good food. So understanding the wider dynamics, the wider challenges within the food system is very important. Also, looking at the other side of the problem, We waste over 1.3 billion tons of food every year, and at the moment, 33% of the overall earth is being degraded. Now, this degradation could be more adverse in different locations compared to the others. So, for some locations, it's over 50% degradation already, and we need to really help to improve the food system to make it work for us. Now, the food system accounts currently for roughly one third of the global emission. The transition to a more sustainable food system represents an incredible opportunity to drive progress against climate change. Emissions attributed to the food system are projected to increase between 60 to 90% between 2010 and 2050 unless we take drastic actions to address and mitigate some of these emissions. Despite this, a sustainable food system change remains very much underfunded, making up only approximately 40% of the climate finance. So if we need about 15 times more funding to make sure that we can provide sustainable food for the wider population, and considering that we expect over 10 billion people on planet Earth by 2050, we really need to make the right steps now. Now, rather than just trying to talk abstract, I'm going to zoom in, into the EU Common Agricultural Policy, and I'm going to try to look at what it's all about, and how the challenges in terms of the state of financing of the food system within the EU, and also how or what is being done to really help ensure that this transition, these farm to fork and the EU Green Deal could help us deliver a sustainable food system in EU. And I think what is happening in EU is also a reflection of the global situation of the food system. So let's dive into the EU. So if we try to look at the EU Common Agricultural Policy, which was launched in 1962, it is a partnership between agriculture and society, and between Europe and its farmers. It aimed to support farmers and improve agricultural productivity, to ensure there's a stable supply of affordable food, and to safeguard European Union farmers to make a reasonable living. It's meant to help tackle climate change and sustainable management of natural resources. The Common Agricultural Policy is designed in such a way to maintain rural areas and landscapes across the EU, to also keep the rural economy alive by promoting jobs in farming, agri-food industries, and associated sectors. So these are the key, things that we factored in when the Common Agricultural Policy was established. However, a recent report by the European Commissioner for Agriculture, Janusz Wojciechowski, did highlight that there's a gap in financing for farmers in Europe, and that gap stands at 62 billion euros in 2022, while there is a funding gap of 5.5 billion euros for SMEs from processing agri-food products. Following this recent survey, which was carried out with over 6,550 EU farmers and 2,389 EU agro-food processors, the European Commissioner for Agriculture also highlighted that this gap in funding, which has been being established to be 62 billion euro, was actually doubled between 2017 and 2022. So it was at 2017, the funding gap was 33 billion, and that has doubled between 2017 and 2022 to 62 billion euros. Now, that is a bit different for SMEs processing agri-food, because there's a bit of a little decline from 6.3 billion euros to 5.5 billion euros between 2017 and 2022. But still, this funding gap is still a problem that farmers, players within agri-food sector, especially the small-scale operators, are not able to access the right funding they need to make progress. Although there's been a decline in rejection, but overall, there's also a great demand by farmers to increase the funding they need to be able to work and provide food for our consumption. It's also been highlighted in the report that loans above 7 years remain very difficult for farmers to assess. And most of this is based on stringent policies by the banks because they view farming and food production just like any other production system, which means that it's a bit difficult for them to understand the intricacies and the challenges that farmers face, and be able to provide the right funding and the right financial platform to support them. Now, based on that report, it's very important to note that 37% of the rejection were based on unwillingness of the bank to invest. 20% considered the proposal invalid, and more importantly, over 50% of the proposals submitted by young farmers were rejected. So I'm so pleased that we are supporting young graduates to engage with the food system, and we are providing this knowledge for them to be able to seek funding that will help them to deliver a sustainable food system. And I think one of the key things that came out from that report is that 32% of the people who are older farmers, they actually were able to get funding more, and only 32% of them were rejected in terms of the funding. So I think it's really important that our young graduates and young people should be supported to be able to help drive the change within the food system. And we're very pleased that through the Global Agri-Food Techpreneur Program, we're doing a great work in supporting these young graduates. We are helping them, we're enabling them to engage and understand the problem within the food system and how they could actually help solve them. We hope to have more of these young graduates working with us as we support them, and also as we continue to partner with different organizations who are supporting us through the Global Agri-Food Techpreneur Program to support them. So I think we have seen the state of financing within the food system in the EU. Now, also, it's important to highlight that in 2019, the EU support for farmers based on the Common Agricultural Policy we are spread across 14.18 billion euros for rural development, 2.37 billion euros for market measures, and 41.43 billion euros for income support. Now, based on the trend of things, the EU is now moving to invest over 8.5 billion of common agricultural policy funding in setting up young farmers in the EU. Now, under this cap, member states will also have the right to provide preferential rates and conditions as in form of financial instruments that could help support the producers of food as well as also the processors. More importantly, I want to highlight the fact that the UK government is also doing quite a lot of work with the Environmental Land Management Scheme and other subsidies that's been in place to support transitioning farmers, producers, and also wider stakeholders across the food system into adopting more sustainable practices. So now, just to help us to kind of move on to see, okay, what can we do differently within the food system? How do we then establish this innovative finance that could help drive change within the food system? Firstly, we need to tackle the existing bottleneck that is militating against access to funding for the agri-food sector, so that we will ensure that we can unlock a large-scale, massive-scale investment to drive transition to a sustainable food system. We also need a much more purposeful approach to the way we grow food. So we need to prioritize, the key pillars of sustainability, which is, having purpose, which is something, these pillars of sustainability are things that we try to communicate extensively to participants of the Global Agri-Food Techpreneur Program, which we believe that is helping them in how they transition and move forward their business. So important key principles of sustainability, purpose, having clear purpose as the business leader, and also in your business to be able to communicate that purpose within your business and also out with your business and across different stakeholders. The way you manage people, planet, peace, prosperity, and ultimately partnerships. Partnerships are very fundamental, as well as the other pillars of sustainability, which we don't have all the time to go into very details about. Please, you can find more details about these key pillars of sustainability on IntelliDigest website. Go to the Food Industry Sustainability Index, which we have developed to look at these key pillars of sustainability and what it means for the food system. Now, if we are looking a little bit more on partnerships, for us to be able to build the right partnerships, we need to make a shift from people concentrating on doing things alone, but looking at how there could be co-creation of investment opportunities and tackling obstacles with combined involvement of countries, the private sector, and development financial institutions. So we need to work together, and we need to look into the key sources of finances, which include domestic public resources, the private sector, the multilateral development banks, and also concessional funds, to make sure that we can put all the necessary resources to be able to meet this projected $300 to $315 billion that is needed to transform the food system. So I do encourage everyone who is joining us today, whether you're joining us from the public sector, from the government, from the multilateral banks, or you are part of the commercial banks, we need to work together, and we need to work with young people to be able to support them to transform the food system, because ultimately what we want to achieve is to make sure that more people have access to good food, and that the way we produce food will help to improve our health as well as also restore our environment. So thank you so much for being part of this event today. As we reflect on these discussions and these key points today, I hope that it helps us and strengthens us to continue to see for ways we can develop innovative finances to help transform the food system and ensure that more people have access to good food.